Hi guys, welcome back to Supermom TV. So last week I went to Masters of the Century event where I met with Robert Kiyosaki, Nas Daily and a few more motivational speakers. So this week I'm going to summarize what I learned from Nas Daily. Since I'm a YouTuber, I want to learn from him because he creates very good impact video which I want to model after. So here are some tips that I've learned from him. I feel that these tips are super useful for video creators like myself, especially YouTubers, as well as any other content creators out there. So this is the event that I went. It's the Masters of Century event and it is by Success Resources. These are some of the speakers that came that day and it was a 2-day event. I went for the event especially to learn things from Robert Kiyosaki as well as Nas Daily. So today I'll be talking about what I learned from Nas Daily. Nas is the most popular storytelling page on Facebook. So he is 26 years old. As he says, 35% of his life is complete. Nas left his job to travel and tell stories. Each day, Nas produces a fun, new minute-long video inviting his community from around the world to dive into cultures, places, and experiences. After 1,000 consecutive days of daily videos, Nas grew to 13 million followers and amassed 4 billion views, making him one of the biggest content creators in the world. So I'm really inspired by him. So his session during the event was only 1 hour, but it was impactful and I managed to summarize it into a few simple point forms so that I can share with you guys of what are the tips that Nas shared during the event. So the very first tip that he mentioned was, in order for you to create impactful videos, he stresses on using very simple words in your story. Because your story is going to reach out the whole world and there are many people that are non-English speaking. So if you want to reach as much as possible, it is very advisable to use very simple English so that everyone in the world can get your message. Dump all the very bombastic and very difficult English words and just make it as simple as possible. The second thing that I've learned from him is to create a story and make a video which is human related. In other words, tell human stories. So Nas made a video on the kid who started a bank.
Hi! The kid you see next to me is only 14 years old, but this kid started a bank.
This is one of the very good example on why you should tell human stories. It is very engaging and it connects the world. So how interesting is that? The moment you see the title that the kid who started a bank, and this kid is from Peru, and he's only 14 years old. This is something that we don't see in our daily life and it don't happen in most of our countries. Somewhere in the world, in the small town in Peru, you have a kid that started a bank at the age of 14 years old. And how interesting this story is. So this is how you can use this kind of very meaningful and very interesting story to connect with your audience. So this is one thing that I've learned from Nas and I feel that it is really very interesting. I believe he did a lot of research. Whenever he go to travel, he will find really interesting thing to tell about. Nas' objective is very simple. He just want to get this unknown story and let everyone knows about this story. Because without him, nobody knows that this 14-year-old started a bank. And this type of story is very good to retain your audience. That means your retention rate of your video is going to be very high. So Nas did stress on this point. Video retention rate is very high. The meaning of this is how many percent of your viewers is going to watch your video from start to the end. So if all of your audience watches your 5-minute video from the start till the end, that means your retention rate is 100%. Retention rate is so important because if your retention rate is good, YouTube will also rank your video higher. It's the same if you are doing a Facebook video. If your retention rate is good, then Facebook will also rank your video higher. So no matter which platform you're at, your video retention is very important. The next thing that I've learned from Nas is to package your story. Some stories seems very uninteresting, especially when you look in an article. His example was story about Singapore. He uses a very boring Pulau Semakau landfill as an example. So he saw an article about Singapore landfill and he found it very interesting. The article was very boring because it is too informative and it tells you the history of Pulau Semakau, what is Pulau Semakau, and how big is Pulau Semakau. All these are too boring stuff that you should not tell in your story. So instead, he packaged his stories. It becomes super interesting. So in his video, he tells how Singapore cleans. So the way he tells the story is how the people of Singapore have made a landfill feels like a resort. So it totally changed the whole story of Pulau Semakau landfill. And he made it super interesting. And all of his video, he make it so simple. So basically what he do is, whenever he visits a country, he will find articles of the country, and these articles are mostly too informative and is quite boring. So he summarize it, make it very simple, and package it. So I hope my sharing is useful to all of you. Next week, I'm going to tell you more on what I've learned from other speakers. So stay tuned to my next week's video. So that's all for today. So I will see you in my next video. Bye bye!